We are live again on a Friday, partner. It's the 21st of February. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside my co-host, Sarah Ellison. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. We'll get to them a little bit later on. We've got a lot to get to over the course of the next hour as, of course, the NFL Combine is right on deck next week in Indianapolis. Looking forward to being out there. Going to finalize a bunch of logistical plans for my trip this weekend, and I'll be out on Monday afternoon and hopefully tracking down as many different folks and perspectives and obviously prospects as I can for us, Sarah. But that's next week. We'll begin today talking about a rumored to be available player at the pass rusher position in the coming weeks, and that is Chargers star. I don't know if Chargers star is the right word, but certainly he has been earlier on in his career, and that is Joey Bosa. He'll be 30 soon, so he's on the back nine of his career, if you will. But we're going to examine him as a player, talk about the rumors that are swirling surrounding him in just a bit. From there, Todd McShay, former ESPN draft analyst, is now doing his own thing, as plugged in as anybody. He dropped his first mock draft. We'll take a look at who he has the Ravens selecting at 27th overall. And former Ravens scout Daniel Jeremiah held that annual press conference call with media yesterday, and there's a bunch of Ravens nuggets that dropped as a result. And as promised, we'll get in and take you through those. The Baltimore Banner just released its latest report on Justin Tucker, and it looks like NFL investigators have made their way to Baltimore to start to interview some of these accusers, some of the massage therapists. So we'll go through the significance of that, partner. Lots to get to, as always, on this Friday. Let's finish up the week strong, shall we?
Well, let's do. Thank goodness it's Friday. I mean, I'm looking forward to the week. I've got I've got 3 big time basketball games to end the season tomorrow. So looking forward to that. But first, Dan Graziano, who's, the plugged in guy, one of the plugged in guys at ESPN, who tries to talk to all the guys at the front offices around the league. And so he put together on their kind of exclusive content side of ESPN, which I have paid for. So here you go. You're welcome, everybody. I'm going to pull out the stuff that I feel like is Ravens related. So Dan had talked about what he's hearing out of the Chargers. So we already know that the Chargers will have, unless they re-sign him before free agency opens, Khalil Mack, pass rusher, set to hit the open market. And then what about the other big time pass rusher over there, the big name guy, Joey Bosa? And Dan Graziano writes, the people I talk to think that's the likely outcome, meaning that he will be cut. But they thought the same thing last year, and Bosa and the Chargers were able to get a deal done to keep him there. He's scheduled to make $25 million this season, but nearly half of that comes in the form of $12 million roster bonus due next month. So that, to me, with that kind of money, with the availability that he's had, just that alone makes me think that they could cut him unless he's willing to take a major pay cut. So he says, so while none of his 2025 money is guaranteed, the Chargers would obviously want to decide by the time they have to pay that roster bonus. Then he says, with Khalil Mack eligible for unrestricted free agency and the Chargers contractually prohibited from franchising Mack, keeping Bosa, who had 5 sacks in 2024, could turn out to be a priority. That is, unless they want to overhaul their entire edge rush the way they did their wide receiver core last year, which is possible. So, Bobby, I went ahead and brought in the numbers from both these edge rushers that very well could hit the market. Both had similar tackles last year. The sacks, very similar also. Khalil had 6. Bosa had 5. Passes defended. Khalil drops back. Seems to be a little bit more because he has 9 to Boa's 0. But the big difference between these two guys is how many games they've been playing. So Khalil Mack played 16 of the 17. Joey played in 14. But if you go back in time, Bosa hasn't played a full slate, I don't know, until they were playing 16 games. In 2021, he played 16 games. In 2022, he played in 5. In 2023, he played in 9. So last year at 14 was his best in several years.
Well, how about putting it this way? 23 over the last 3 seasons. And that's not a great number.
Not a great number. It's not a great number. Here's what's funny, and this is why you don't always want to lean into spot rack too often, because I don't know that they're really thinking, putting into their algorithm of how, let me see if I can pull this up here, of like how injuries and all that play into things. Spot rack, oh, that's the wrong one. I'm going to get to him in just a second. Oh, Spot Rack does not have a number for Joey Bosa because he hasn't been released yet. So they don't have a value on him. Yeah. However, let me get this different one here on Khalil Mack, which also seems a little bit high to me. Here's Khalil. They have him at $23.6 million per year. I see, and this is why I'm always like, I don't know that I buy into Spot Rack all the time. And I get that the Ravens got a huge discount with Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah.
But Kyle Van Noy had double the sacks of Khalil Mack and is probably half the price, if that is indeed true. And also Khalil Mack, I think he's 33, whereas Joey Bosa is 29. So
which makes both players past their prime.
Which and makes one player's case their prime, but why they're like realistic for the Ravens to get, because I'm not believing this number right here.
No, right? Nor should you. But this isn't the game record that we've been kind of like trying to speak into existence. And now a lot of that conversation these last few days has been via the draft, right? This would be through free agency. So this would be bolstering a room with yet another veteran like a Kyle Van Noy, even though Kyle's been available and a heck of a whole lot more productive than Bosa in recent years. But yeah, both of these players are past their prime, which to your point makes it more realistic for the Ravens, who don't have a ton of wiggle room at the current moment prior to extensions and other decisions they make to give themselves more cap flexibility in the coming weeks.
Right. So both those guys from the Chargers, big names, but are they really going to like they're not an upgrade over Kyle Van Noy, and they're those veterans where I feel like they are starting to fall off, whereas Kyle Van Noy continues to get better. Yeah. The more and more I listen to national guys, it just sounds like the Browns are dug in and are doing everything they can to convince Myles Garrett that it's going to be okay over there. So right now, Myles Garrett, who's the only true game wrecker that is at least wants to be traded, Max Crosby, he seems like the guy that just wants to stay with the Raiders. So he's not really available. But here's one outside of the draft that to me does make a little more sense. And here's back to Dan Graziano. He was talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. So the question posed to him was, can the Eagles afford to bring back all their free agent stars on defense? And he says probably not. Though it's hard to put anything past GM Howie Roseman. Okay, but here's who they have to re-sign. There's Zach Bond, who they got for $3.5 million as a major steal, and he played so well, he's going to want more than that, okay?
One of the stars of the Super Bowl.
Right, one of the stars. Now check this out. Remember how everybody talked about the defensive line for the Eagles? They used 4-man rushes the entire game. Never once had to blitz Patrick Mahomes, and yet hit him ad nauseum, just never stopped. Well, half of their defensive linemen are scheduled to become eligible as unrestricted free agents. There's Milton Williams, which is the defensive tackle, and I think the Ravens aren't going to pay money for that. They're paying Nauni Madubuike. So, plus the draft is flush with interior defensive linemen. But the interesting one is Josh Sweat. I'll get to him in just a minute. There also is Darius Slay Jr. I don't think the Ravens are. I mean, remember there was like a second that they almost had a deal.
1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah, 1 or 2 years ago. So Darius obviously made the right decision for him because he got probably the money he wanted and he got his Super Bowl ring. And then there's 31-year-old cornerback James Bradbury IV. Now, again, I think the Ravens can supplement. They have veterans in their secondary, so I, again, would go more towards the draft for that CB2/3. But Josh Sweat is very interesting to me. Here's He came out and said he played so well in that Super Bowl, Bobby, with 2 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 6 pressures. 6 pressures. That he came out and said that he should have won Super Bowl MVP.
What's he think? He's Von Miller?
Well, he played like it.
Yes,
he
played
did. Like it. But they gave it obviously to the quarterback, which just seems to be the thing that you do these days. But this is what he said. He said, I should have had it. I could have had it. It's all good though.
I kind of love that.
What's crazy is those numbers, the 2.5 sacks and 3 quarterback hits, tackles for loss. I mean, total what he had for the whole year last year was 8 sacks. So I do think that speaks a little bit to how bad Kansas City's offensive line is, right? Like, I don't know that he's like obviously he's not a Myles Garrett. Few people are, but he only had 8 sacks throughout the whole season. But again, it doesn't sound like they're like putting together, these super disguised defenses. Like they're coming with 4. So, but when it mattered most in the biggest game out there, he came up big to the point where, he could have been considered for Super Bowl MVP. So to me, if you're looking for a veteran to add to this group, I believe he's only 27. And here's what Spot Rack is saying. But again, I just don't know that I always trust what they have going on here. But here's what they say for his market value. $18.8 million.
He'll be 28 next month.
Okay. And the Ravens aren't going to pay that kind of money. 18.8. But
nope.
he very well could cash in just based off that Super Bowl performance alone. So again, it kind of maybe brings you back to the draft because pass rushers aren't cheap, except for Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, literally. Who literally did not have a home at the time of signing that cheap deal, right? It's like the epitome of a prove it deal. Oh yeah, I'm going to go out there. And as he said, and he's been on record saying this many times, he took exception to the fact that he was on the couch. And that has fueled him in ways that has literally, he's one-upped himself back-to-back years and put forth career years on the other side of 30. What is he, 33 now? So he'll be in Baltimore for another year. And as you alluded to earlier in the week, you can't imagine it'll be after that. Like I don't believe he'll continue in Baltimore after that, barring something unforeseen. Right? This is sort of like I don't know if like a bridge player is the proper term for him, but he's somebody that is obviously on the back 9 of his career.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I just feel like the Ravens need to restock at outside linebacker because KVN and Odafe Owe are headed into their current final years. They could always extend one or both, I guess. But David Ojabo hasn't done much, and so you're going to have to restock, and you want to do that through the draft. So the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm like, the draft is the way to go because they do have their veteran in Kyle Van Noy. Like, I don't think that Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack, I mean, maybe Sweat, you could argue because he's still younger, but he's going to be expensive. And I've seen in the chat, they have a question of how Sweat did against Baltimore this year. He had 5 combined tackles, 0 tackles for loss, and 0 sacks.
Ojabo might not even be on the team next year.
He's going to be...
Sir,
people, I'm just laughing at some of the comments. Who is Ojabo?
I mean, David this past year, I thought was one of the more underrated, disappointing stories of the season.
Yeah.
He was a non-factor. He wasn't even dressing
since he's been drafted, really.
Yeah, he wasn't even dressing towards the end of the season. So I think that's a fair question. Is he even going to be a part of their 2025 plans?
Well, and that's the thing is like, again, if they restock in the draft, and I'm going to get to what Daniel Jeremiah said about the depth at pass rusher in the draft, then he could be squarely on the bubble and will need to return to form before he got injured at Michigan and at their pro day. One last thing from Dan Graziano. And this was the question he had posed to him for Mark Andrews, which we've discussed quite a bit over the last couple of days because, we kind of had that discussion with Femi. So the question was, is Mark Andrews really a cap cut candidate? That's not a good question. There's no way he's going to just be cut. You have to get something for him if you're going to move on. It would be a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but at the bottom is where I thought it was most interesting. He said, there's a good chance he and the team come up with a way to stay together. So up until now, Bobby, we've just discussed trade or keep, because the $16 million cap hit, 16.9, it's really 17. It's just, they just can't afford that right now, especially with Likely sitting behind him, who can produce, and he's cheap because he's on that rookie contract. So if we're talking about a Ronnie Stanley situation and he just straight up takes a pay cut, well, I can work with that.
Ronnie's pay cut's it's going to come back. The pendulum's going to swing for him one way or the other. He's going to get paid this offseason. Took that pay cut and responded incredibly admirably this year, right? I mean, he had the long term. I mean, he in a contract year, he responded. Brandon Stevens went the other way, unfortunately for him.
Yeah. Now, in this case, it's not like Mark Andrews is coming off of another injury-filled year. He did have one. But last year, he produced plenty. Now,
matter of fact, Sarah, he actually, not to cut you off, he actually set receiving yards were down, as we know, after a slow start, but he set a personal record for touchdowns. I think he had 11 touchdowns this year. That was a personal best for him, and he's obviously been super productive.
Right. And so that's why I've said I can move forward with Mark Andrews. My hard line is I'm not going to him with the game on the line. That's where I'm at. Now, again, where they say there's a good chance they work something out, that to me signals either pay cut or extension. If you extend him, you're not extending Likely. And so to me, just based off of age, I don't know how you make that choice. So I thought that was very interesting wording that Dan Graziano had. There's a good chance that they find a way to stay together.
Okay.
So we'll see what that means.
All right. Well, on deck here, Ravens Nuggets from Daniel Jeremiah's annual media press conference, and Todd McShay's first mock draft dropped. We'll tell you who he has the Ravens taking at 27th overall. But first, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep, the official sleep mask partner of the Vault. And these sleep masks, as we've told you in the past, give you true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. Zero pressures applied to your eyelids or lashes. You've got advanced materials and ventilation, which give you unmatched breathability. And if you click on the link that we have included as a pinned comment in the live chat or at the top of the show notes, it'll take you to this site right now. And man, oh man, do they have a lot to choose from in their inventory. You've got the sound mask, Aiden Ellison's favorite with the built-in Bluetooth feature. Bobby Trossett's favorite, the Manta Sleep Mask Pro, which he will be bringing as I talk in third person to Indianapolis on the road next week. Can't wait for that. The Silk and the original sleep masks, sort of the OG versions. And then they got a couple new ones too. Which one?
London.
London likes the Silk.
Mm-hmm.
The OG for London. Hope she's feeling better. You got the weighted mask. We don't talk about these very often, and I think these are kind of cool. I mean, look at the weighted mask. Calming pressure for deep restorative sleep, side sleep comfort, so on and so forth. You got the cool mask, cool therapy to soothe your eyes and sinuses. Could have used that a couple weeks ago with the plague. The steam mask, steamy heat to relax and moisturize your eyes. The kids mask, and much more too on this website, including the white noise machine options you have, the sleep add-ons features. If you find something you like, use our discount code at checkout. That's Vault10. It'll get you 10% off your next purchase. Again, that is Vault10, VAULT10. And if you support our brand sponsors, you are supporting us. We appreciate you guys, and we appreciate Manta Sleep for the continued support here this offseason. Tila, we've got over 12,000, or 12,000, I wish, maybe on day one of free agency. We've got over 1,200 on this Friday. We appreciate you guys for being here. Please like the video on your way in if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and please, if you're in the Twitter space, you want a more interactive experience with us, including some super chats we're going to get to in just a bit, pop on over to YouTube. Thank you guys for being here today. Let's see. Not a fan got us started earlier, and he was talking about Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And he says, no thanks on the old farts as edge rushers next. That brings us to Richard, my running mate.
Just can you back up a little bit just to
There you go.
I hate that F word also. I don't know why. It makes me so uncomfortable. My kids tease me about it. I use the word bubble.
Okay. Well, how is that better? Bubble?
Bubble's way better.
What?
Yeah. It's like not as, it's just, the F word is just so harsh.
Amazing.
My kids torture me with it. They'll say it all the time. I'm like, no, let's call it a
find
bubble.
It awkward? Is it cringy to say?
Ooh,
is that what you mean?
Just like maybe it's just too close to the king of F words, but it just sounds so like, ugh. I don't know. Let's just call it a bubble.
See what you did, not a fan? We're changing it to bubble. Bubble.
Oh, people are dying. My kids think I'm dumb too, but bubble. My mom called it when I grew up. We called it a wind.
Look at this. Now you're getting the live chat going. I mean, unbelievable. Not a fan. See what you did.
Oh, they think bubbles. You guys think bubble sounds worse?
Yeah, I think it's strange.
No, like bubbles are cute. You like blow bubbles. Kids have the bubble thing. They blow bubbles. With
the context, though, as we went from fart to bubbles, I mean, you're getting us down a slippery slope.
What about a wind? Is a wind better?
Wind? Richard, help us out, Richard.
Dude, I'm getting killed in the chat.
Amazing. As you should be.
All right. Asmodeus says, if Garrett believes, hold on. I got to get these laughing tears out of my eyes. Okay. If Garrett believes the Browns, he's a sucker. I don't think he believes them. I don't know if he's going to have much choice.
Rich, appreciate you. BDRSR says Bobby Valentino about to go on that double date on his trip this weekend. You ain't slick.
Oh.
Jake Asman does want that double date, but there's no suitors right now. Look forward to getting out there. It's going to be business, full business trip for me. Business trip mode. Dreams.
No more injury-prone stars. Kind of agree with Dreams here. Take Jack Sawyer or trade up for Mike Green. And Bobby, check out safety Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma.
Okay. Oh, a second.
Get out the notes as you head over to the combine.
Safety
Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma.
I feel like Dreams is a big day 3 guy. Like he likes these guys that aren't maybe garnering a ton of attention. And that just actually makes me think of a note that I just left for myself yesterday, which maybe Kuyan will enjoy here. And I know you will. We should probably reach back out to our guy, Emery Hunt, who is a day 3 king.
Yeah.
Day 3 king. We've had Emery on footballgameplan.com. We've had him on for 2 consecutive years, I think, typically in April. So I know he's going to be in Indy. I've been meaning to message him. He never says no. And man, is he friggin' phenomenal. So
yeah,
hopefully we'll have a chance to connect with him at some point this draft season. That brings us to the draft extraordinaire and a former colleague of yours. That is former Ravens scout turned NFL draft analyst, Daniel Jeremiah. And Sarah, he had a bunch of takeaways, as did Jonas Schaefer and other beat reporters who were on the call yesterday for his annual conference for media members.
Yeah, so we just talked about Mark Andrews and the potential trade or what to do there. Here's another thing that impacts it. Daniel Jeremiah, I've heard Daniel Jeremiah say this. I've heard Mike Mayock say this. I've heard several guys about the best positions that have the most depth. Tight end is one of them. Here's Daniel Jeremiah on the overall quality of the draft.
Tight end. I think that you have to,
Sorry, let me rewind
if
that.
you are dead set on getting a defensive tackle, edge rusher, running back, tight end, I think that you have to look at the combination. And this is, what you do in the draft room is you take the combination of players. Okay, if we take the running back in the first round and we take the tackle in the second round, what does that combination look like versus flipping it? We get the tackle first, we come back and get the running back, edge rusher, whatever position later. I just think those are some positions of real depth. So, if that's a need for you along the defensive line, running back, tight end, I think you might look at going another position early, knowing you can circle back and still get a really talented player, not just in this year, but historically, like day 2 guys. Whereas I don't know that the top 15 of this draft marries up with some of the better top 15s we've seen over the last decade. But I do think the day 2 mix, I think it's very similar. So I think there's quality to be had there.
All right. So kind of heard it there. He said tight end, running back, and defensive line. That's both interior and edge rusher. He goes on to explain. So point being, again, if you want to move on from one of your tight ends, all 3 of them are set to be free agents next year. Now sounds to be a good time to go ahead and look at that tight end draft class. Running back, Ravens don't really need any, but it wouldn't surprise me if they take one late, as they almost do annually. And then obviously the defensive line does line up, both edge rusher and interior does line up with what the Ravens need, as we've been talking about the edge rushers really just needing to reload, looking a year ahead and looking for a game wrecker. And you're going to need, like, Michael Pierce is kind of aging out. Brent Urban is going to be free agent again. They might sign him to another 1-year deal. But that's where the quality of it is. And then I thought at the end where he said the top 15. So you're not getting like these guys that are just generational up in the top 15, which is why he calls this a starter draft. He said it later in the conference call where he's like, you can find plenty of starters, lots of good depth, but maybe not certainly not the quarterback depth or the quarterback sensations that you're used to seeing. And so there might be less people trying to move up to get to that quarterback that they think could change their franchise. So something to watch about, again, with Mark Andrews, knowing the depth of this tight end class.
If there's 2 things very broadly that I've started to gather that you just made me think about when it comes to this class, as you start to consume all this different content, it is in fact that it's a very underwhelming quarterback class, particularly compared to last year.
Mm-hmm.
And from a wide receiver standpoint as well, underwhelming compared to some really historic classes in recent years. And so don't know what that means for the Ravens, but as we've already kind of gathered this week, if there's that running back run, if there's a couple first round tight ends, if there is this, if that starts to shake out, I think a lot of that goes in the Ravens' favor for, a potential super talented edge rusher to, or defensive back, like some of these, analysts have mocked them to, falling to them at 27. Hint, hint, McShay's going with a defensive back. We'll get to that in just a second. But, and by the way, that makes me think about something that Todd also mentioned, just speaking to the AFC North news and what Cleveland might do. A lot of drafts, a lot of draft boards have them going after Cam Ward at number 2 overall at quarterback out of Miami. McShay has heard that they're tied to Kirk Cousins as a bridge. So could Kirk Cousins end up in the AFC North to be that bridge guy? I have no idea what that means for Deshaun's future, but he's not even going to be ready by the start of the season because of his offseason procedure. But can you imagine Kirk ends up in the AFC North quarterbacking for the Browns?
Right. AFC North. I mean, at this point, bring all the great quarterbacks to the AFC. All we're missing is what? Jaden Daniels. Somehow Jaden Daniels will make it over to the AFC sooner than later. But yeah, there's a lot of there's going to be quarterback changes. There could be big time quarterback changes both at the Steelers and the Browns. So certainly something that the Ravens will want to keep up on. Meanwhile, so getting more into that defensive line chatter, I believe it was Brian Wacker of the Baltimore Sun talking about the need for edge and asking whether it would be smart for the Ravens to trade up for that. He kind of poo-pooed that idea, but had a different idea for the Ravens to trade up.
The things you look at with the Ravens is because they amass all these picks and because they've played the comp game, better than anybody else in the NFL, is you have options. So if you absolutely fall in love with one of those edge rushers, yeah, they have the ammunition to do it. I just don't necessarily think you have to. I think there's a lot of depth along the defensive front, not just edge rushers, but D tackles. If they want to be patient, I think one comes to them. Shamar Stewart is someone that I paired up with them, who's just got a ton of twitch and a ton of ability out of Texas A&M. I think his best football is ahead of him. Even someone like Donovan Izaraku from Boston College kind of fits what they like in rushers. He's real long. He's firm. He's got some power, and he's got a lot of production. So, and we can go on into day two. Like there's gonna be edge rushers there. The one thing, my ears perked up thinking about them moving up was, with your question, was maybe an offensive tackle, depending on what happens with Ronnie Stanley. If Ronnie Stanley were to depart in free agency, and say it's a Simmons or someone like that they really like and have a high grade on, there's not a lot of depth of starting tackle caliber players in this draft, so that would be more in line with my thinking there.
So okay. pretty. So in his view, because there's so much depth at pass rusher, he's like, you can afford to be patient. Of course, if you fall in love with somebody, go ahead and move up. But that is why he kind of went to, well, if you do want to trade up where you're not going to have a chance later on, is with offensive tackle. So the way I read this, Bobby, is that one way or another, the Ravens are going to have to be aggressive at tackle, right? Like, either you need to pay Ronnie Stanley a figure that's going to make him not want to go test the market, because he will be the best offensive tackle on the market if he reaches it. And the supply just does not meet the demand when it comes to quality left tackles in the NFL. So you're either going to have to pay him, or if you want to make sure you've got a solid replacement, whether you put him at right tackle or left tackle, DJ saying to me, if you can't get Ronnie, then you use that ammunition and trade up for a tackle. And he had mentioned a guy that potentially could be there where it's within range for you to move up is Josh Simmons of Ohio State. You got a picture of him there.
Yep.
Dude looks he's a big dude. That doesn't always equate. That's a big dude. Watched him a little bit here in Columbus for Ohio State.
Yeah.
Protected his guy pretty well. And this is Mel Kiper's top 10 list of offensive tackles. He's got Josh Simmons as the third best. So last year, there was a deep offensive tackle draft, which is why the Ravens could afford to wait until the end of the second round to find a new starting tackle and Roger Rosengarten. According to Daniel Jeremiah, you don't have that luxury this year. So if you don't get Ronnie Stanley, you better make a move and get one of the few guys that is you could plug and play there.
I've been thinking about this more and more, this Ronnie Stanley decision that looms. The more and more I think about it, Sarah, the more I want them to run it back with Ronnie. And I think that there's a lot of thoughts that go into that statement. One, that he has officially brought himself back from, how do you want to call it? I mean, he was in the pits, right? Like, this dude was in complete irrelevance at just a couple of years ago with that ankle. And we were all wondering whether or not he was going to live up to that historic contract that he signed right before he went down, several years ago with that ankle. And so not only has he worked his way all the way back, but he played at a Pro Bowl caliber level for you. He's your franchise left tackle. He and Lamar have a certain level of loyalty together. There's a certain level of familiarity there. The right-hand side is completely shored up for the foreseeable future in Roger. You hit on that pick and then some in the second round last year. You have to figure out what you're doing at guard, at left guard. The hope is that Voorhees can rise to the occasion. The hope is that the Fa'alele experiment continues in the upward trajectory. And so I just kind of feel like when you look at left tackles around the league, I mean, this is a position that comes, if you have it locked down the way they feel like they do, I'm getting more and more of an urge to keep them.
Is there a thought in the back of your head that says, what if Ronnie gets injured again? And obviously you can say that about anybody, but we're bringing this up with Ronnie because as soon as he had that Pro Bowl year, that All-Pro year in 2019 and got paid big time, then it took several years to get back to what we saw in 2024. It's funny because Jeff Zrebeck was on I can't remember whose podcast, somebody local. I'll have to go listen to the whole thing, but he was just making fun of people who were like, cut Ronnie, which makes sense that they felt that way, right? Because he wasn't getting on the field. And when he did, he was injured and wasn't playing well. And now all of a sudden it's like, we have to keep him. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, is there any part of you in the back of your mind is like, well, the Ravens are already strapped for cash. They have those 11 picks. Now it's tougher in the draft because you don't have as much control. Like, who knows when a run on tackles is going to go? So again, it's just like, that is in the back of my head. Ronnie played great, and I would not fault the Ravens if they were able to re-sign him for sure.
Yeah.
But is it like you have to be aggressive one way or the other? And so it's like, are you just like, how old is Ronnie now?
Ronnie is right around 30.
Yeah. So I just don't know. I like it. And again, but he is 30. You're exactly right. He turns 31 in March. So he'll be 31 going into this year.
Yep.
And so if you sign him, it would probably be to like a 3-year deal. Or is there a part of you that's like, man, maybe we should just go and get fresher or were those just freak injuries that were seriously, seriously bad injuries?
Yeah.
And, I don't know. So back to my question, is that in the back of your head, that the injury history?
Of course. But I don't know if it's outweighed by, I don't believe it's outweighed by what you would be doing if you were to move on from him. And that's exactly what you did this year. They took a gamble. They rebuilt their offensive line. And while it was obviously a work in progress early, they did mesh, and you got to give that to them. You got to tip your cap to George Warhop. You got to tip your cap to Fa'alele.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tip your cap most notably to Roger for taking his rookie year by storm after a tough first rep that we all remember. And so you have to give them that credit. But the idea of gambling, and what I mean by that is you're taking a gamble if you move on from your franchise left tackle on not only Rodgers' ability to seamlessly transition to the left-hand side. We feel confident that could happen over time. Will there be a learning curve there at the NFL level? I think so. But not only are you taking a gamble on that in this do or die year, this Super Bowl or bust year, which it will be for the foreseeable future, but you're also taking a gamble on what you can find to replace Roger at right tackle. Does that mean you're trying to re-sign Patrick McCary? I know a lot of folks in Baltimore are ready to part ways with him. Does that mean you're going to go try and find a Morgan Moses-esque type player as a bridge to be your future right tackle in free agency? So I would rather, what I'm getting at here is, rather than gamble in what's become this is a significant year for Lamar. It's a significant year for the Ravens, and it will be that case moving forward. Rather than gambling on the offensive line, why not pay what you already feel really confident that you have a certain level of continuity, stability, experience, and performance, albeit, yes, just 1 year of pure health for Ronnie. That makes me feel more comfortable going into such a magnified year.
Well, you might be on the same page with the Ravens, and I'm obviously not against re-signing Ronnie, but remember Fowler said that he kind of reported that it was the Ravens' priority to re-sign Ronnie Stanley. So we will see where that goes. Meanwhile, the last little highlight from the Daniel Jeremiah conference call yesterday with reporters, Ryan Mink had asked about the cornerback and safety class in 2025, and here's DJ on that.
Can the Ravens find a plug-and-play starter if they don't bring Brandon Stevens back? And then similarly at safety, the Ravens are kind of looking for a potential starter there, or at least a third safety.
Yeah, I think it's a little deeper at corner than safety this year. And if we're, looking at the Ravens, if we look where they're picking on day 2, like 59, 91, 59, I look at somebody like Trey Amos from Ole Miss. That would be someone I think would be a really interesting fit for them. Parrish from Kansas State, who I think could play inside, can play outside. Those are some intriguing players. Quincy Riley from Louisville would be in that like third round range is a good one who kind of plays with a little bit of that edge that they like there in Baltimore. So those are some of the corners. When you look at the safety group, second round safeties that late first round, by the way, South Carolina's Nick Emenwari, if he was there, I would turn the card in. I think he'd be a fun player for them to play with. He's big, he's physical, plays more near the line of scrimmage. He makes a lot of plays buzzing underneath the ball, and he's a physical, firm tackler, and he's an aggressive dude. I would be excited about that at the end of the first round. And then when you start getting into the second, third round at the safety position, I really like Jalen Reed from Penn State, who's 212 pounds and can run. He just plays really, really well. Timing and burst as a blitzer. He can play the ball. Third round wise, Ransom from Ohio State, Makubu from Texas, Billy Bowman from Oklahoma. So those are some of the names of those guys. But I would say in terms of the depth of it, I feel like you're getting a little bit longer group there at the corner group.
Hey,
thanks,
Sarah Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Next question is from Bill Huber.
Where are you at?
SI.
Sorry, hold on. Let me get this turned off here.
DJ said Bowman. Queon, I got your note right here. I perked up right away. Billy Bowman. There you go, Queon. I'm listening. I got them written down for next week.
There we go. So there he says the cornerbacks group is deeper than the safety. Said he would love Nick Emenwari out of South Carolina if he was there in the first round at number 29. But again, just based off the way he's talking, it's like, what combination do you want to have? Sounds like you can wait on defensive line. Maybe you've got some depth at corner, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, Bobby. I would love to come out of that first round with an offensive lineman if Ronnie can't return. Then after that, it's just like, then don't trade up and wait for the best player available if you don't need that tackle, because it just sounds like after those beginning ones, everybody seems to be so much in a bunch, right? So much in a bunch, lots of starter quality depth there that it just might be worth being patient and taking your guy.
Well, there's a couple players on this list right here that
This
have
is
already.
Mel Kiper's list, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mel's looking at top 10 corners, top 10 safeties, and there's already been, by my count, at least two players on this list that notable analysts have mocked to the Ravens. Field Yates went with Malachi Starks from Georgia, as we discussed earlier in the week, at 27th overall. And that brings us to the other player, since Todd McShay dropped his mock draft 1.0 yesterday. And that is Florida State corner Azariah. And I've actually heard a couple different pronunciations here, so bear with me. I'm sure we'll learn more about him, but I'm going to go with Azariah Thomas. I believe that's the case. And off we go. McShay has, again, the Florida State corner going to Baltimore 27th overall. And here's what he had to say as a result. Thomas has easy speed, closes in a flash, and does a great job of knowing when to get his head around. He's stood out as the best defensive back at the Senior Bowl, constantly making highlight reel pass breakups and attacking the ball like a wide receiver. He's 6'1", 191, Sarah, junior class at Florida State. They're obviously coming off a really tough year, are the Seminoles, but this is a tough player. Lance Zierlein's overview, NFL draft analyst, had this to say: press man corner with average speed but excellent length to disrupt game flow for opponents. Thomas deters early looks his way from quarterbacks by jabbing, crowding, and smothering the release from press. He lacks route recognition and lateral twitch to stay tight to breaks from off man. He also needs to develop his instincts and trust his eyes from zone coverage. He has average top-end speed, but competes to shrink the receiver's downfield catch odds using his length and ball skills. He's more likely to spoil a catch than make a play on the football that results in a turnover, but that could change with more experience. He's below average in run support, although he improved in that area in 2024. Thomas needs more seasoning, but he could become a good starter within 2 or 3 years. So, obviously,
with your
maybe a little bit of
27th
a
overall
project.
pick? No.
That's
I'm going
just
project
Zierlein.
with the first rounder. That's why I didn't love Daniel Jeremiah's Shamar Stewart, where it was like he has like 3 sacks over 3 years. I mean, something crazy like that.
Well, you heard him mention him again in that little
I
clip.
know, he sure did. He sure did. And I don't know, maybe that's the type of drafts that is coming in 2025. But my goodness, a starter in 2 to 3 years. We need a replacement for Brandon Stevens. That's what we're looking for. That's what we need. And we saw what you can have a solid secondary if you have 1 weak link. That's who opposing quarterbacks are gonna tee off on. So
that was a tough breakdown, lukewarm breakdown there from Zerline. But McShay, that's just one perspective.
Yeah,
McShay likes what he sees. Go Google his name, guys, or Twitter search his name. There's a bunch of highlight reel plays from the Senior Bowl, like McShay
wait,
noted.
do you have that?
Actually, never brought it in, but I can in a second here if you want to go to the safe.
Well, let me do this. Let me share my screen because the Senior Bowl play that stuck out to everybody. I believe this is correct. Let me zoom in here. So Lamar,
he was one-on-one with a Washington State wide receiver.
Is that him? Is it number 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So there you go. So excellent.
You want to here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can you see it?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me zoom in a little bit more. See if I can get this any bigger. It's just making the other stuff bigger, not the video. But he's got excellent coverage. It's just that the wide receiver runs a horrible route. Look at him just sitting there at the beginning, and so it made it easy. And he turns around and makes a one-handed interception. So great for the Florida State corner, right? But people were making fun of the receiver, including Lamar Jackson, who's got all these laughy emojis. And then Lamar later on said about it, let's see where he's at. He said, all 32 quarterbacks are going to start scrambling once the receivers release like this.
Here's the actual play too. In the meantime,
all right.
If you're done with your screen share, we'll do mine over here because it is a heck of a play, but it is a tough route at the same time. Mason Kinahan. I mean, look at Azariah. He just totally bullies this Washington State wide receiver right off the line, man. What's he doing off the line? I mean,
he didn't even bully him though. He just stood there. Look, he doesn't even have to get his hands on him.
See the initial look, Azariah, as you can tell. He's not afraid to press you right at the line of scrimmage. And I mean, he just completely dominates the entire route. I don't know what Kyle Williams is doing here, especially off the top. I mean, there's no separation being garnered there whatsoever. So a nice rep there. That obviously made its rounds after the Senior Bowl. So again, he's a flashy player. Zerline didn't exactly hype him up too much on that draft breakdown, but Todd McShay, NFL draft analyst, that's who he had. And then one more note from Brian Wacker looking at other defensive backs.
Just the same thing. Yeah. A little repetitive there.
Yep. Which brings us to the latest. And as we get to quick hits, we appreciate you guys for being with us this afternoon. The Baltimore Banner has continued its reporting on this ongoing Justin Tucker situation. And the latest is that NFL investigators have been in Baltimore this week interviewing the massage therapists who have accused Justin of inappropriate sexual behavior. That is according to women who participated in the inquiry. We know that number as of last weekend was up to 16, not who have participated in this, but who have accused Justin Tucker and have come forth with allegations within this. So obviously notable, Sarah, as the Ravens continue to stand pat in terms of comment. We learned earlier today when the NFL put out a piece, information ahead of the combine, that both DaCosta and Harbaugh will meet with reporters on Tuesday. And you can bet there will be no shortage of questions related to Justin Tucker.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the way it needs to go down. I know, I completely understand the want that every time a new accuser comes out and you hit 16 and it's like, what are we waiting here for, Ravens? You know what I mean? But this is the way you have to do it. You got to do your own investigation. Nothing has made its way into court, either criminal or civil court. So you don't even have any of that. And so you have all these allegations going through the Baltimore Sun. And so the knee-jerk reaction, which is completely understandable, which is like, okay, just get rid of them. Obviously, the NFL and the Ravens have to do their investigation. And then, but knowing that they were in here this last week, that allows, I don't know if they can divulge any of it, but the Ravens should have more information by the time John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta speak on Tuesday from the Combine, which I know you will be there for. And so they'll have more information. And so this whole thing of like, just we're aware of it isn't going to be enough of a comment, but the investigation for sure has to happen before an action is taken. And so knowing that is going on is a step in that direction.
Yep. No question. Elsewhere, follow-up report on Terrell Suggs. He pleaded guilty on Thursday to a disorderly conduct charge, according to Arizona court records. The Baltimore Sun was on top of this. His criminal case stems from last year, March 2024, the incident where prosecutors alleged the former linebacker threatened to kill a motorist and pulled out a gun after backing into the driver's vehicle in a Starbucks drive-thru. This happened in Scottsdale, Arizona. That's where Terrell lives now these days. So just following up on something that came down the timeline around a year ago.
Yeah, we all knew about it. We heard that we read about the police reports. The news is that, Terrell Suggs has pleaded guilty. And so many people were using this meme yesterday, I think based off of Tucker and then Ben Cleveland and then Terrell Suggs, who obviously isn't on the team anymore, but a Raven who's in the Ring of Honor. And so a lot of people posting this yesterday, 0 days without an accident inside of Baltimore because of all these news stories. So hopefully these three are the last of, people getting causing trouble off the field or allegedly causing trouble off the field, I should say.
It's been an ugly, yeah. In Justin's case, allegedly, yes. And then I guess
and in Cleveland's, I guess, too. I mean, we have the breathalyzer, but obviously hasn't gone through court and all that.
Oof.
But in Suggs' case, he pleaded guilty, so it's no longer alleged.
Yeah. And it's been an ugly offseason, to say the very least. Coaching staff updates. Ravens put out this graphic earlier today. New hires, a lot of whom we've already covered. New defensive backs coach, Donald DeLisio, who joins the organization after 4 years in Kansas City. Assistant linebackers coach, Matt Pease, son of Dean. Anthony Levine Sr., the former Ravens, going to join the special teams group as an assistant under Chris Horton. Kevin Hartman, not somebody that we've covered because strength and conditioning just doesn't get the same kind of pub that football assistants do. But he's going to be
not unless it's coming off of 22 injuries.
Certainly not.
The 2021 year.
Certainly not. Steve Saunders comes to mind when that conversation comes up. But Kevin
when they're
Hartman,
healthy, it's like offensive linemen, right? So this was a really healthy year for the Ravens. It's crazy how healthy they were outside of Zay Flowers going into the playoffs. So it's like offensive linemen. If we don't call your name, you're doing a good job. If we call your name,
no doubt.
Same thing with assistant strength and conditioning coach. We don't know you because the Ravens were healthy this year.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Kevin Hartman, he is your new assistant strength and conditioning coach. Chuck Pagano, as we know, is the senior defensive assistant / secondary coach, former Colts head coach, former Ravens defensive coordinator, rejoining Baltimore. Tyler Santucci is going to take over as inside linebackers coach, and a title change, and certainly well-deserved, for Willie Taggart, who is the running backs coach, but now he will take over as assistant head coach, reporting to John Harbaugh. Willie has a ton of head coaching experience, Sarah, at the college level. Lots of Ravens Wired segments, I feel like, this year showcased his hold on the running back room. And it seems as if this guy is really fit in well, has good rapport with the king. And as a result, along with his other efforts, he gets a title change, assistant head coach.
Pretty nice job to have. I'm the running backs coach, and I have Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell coming back from injury. So
Yep.
not a bad job when you've got the king as your main guy. But yeah, it seems like they just made all these official. We've been reporting these as NFL and Baltimore reporters have put them out. But this kind of makes it all official, and it kind of gives you a wide range view of what they've done, which is mostly attack that linebackers and secondary units.
Elsewhere, just to confirm the times that we referenced a minute ago, DaCosta's media availability, and this is definitely going to mean that you and I are going to have to get creative on Tuesday. EDC will speak at 11 a.m. This is all Eastern time in Indianapolis. They're 10 to 15 minute chunk segments. So this is stuff that every general manager and every head coach along the 32 teams around the league will speak next week. Different days, different time slots, but they're very regimented. EDC's at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, followed by Harbs at 1. So I'm going to be out. I land Monday afternoon. So I will be in attendance for this. And we will let you know what our plan is in terms of streaming that day. So stay tuned.
It's going to be rough.
You and I will put our heads together on that one. Yeah.
So this website put out a graphic that picked the best player all time from every single team. Saw some people disagreeing with the pick here for Ray Lewis. If you zoom in, you can see Ray as the best of all time. I saw some people saying it should be Ed Reed. I think eventually Lamar Jackson could take it over if he wins a Super Bowl. But I agree with this. I would put Ed Reed. I would put Ray Lewis. You have the Rushmore, right? Where both Ray and Ed are obviously the first two picks. This isn't fun to have to pick between the two, but I think I would put Ray also.
I would as well.
No
disrespect to 20, but
clearly
I'll go with Ray.
Yeah. So
what say you, chat? What say you? Evan's going 10 toes down for Ray.
I laugh every time you use that phrase.
I love it. I overuse it, to be honest with you. I overuse a lot of things. I got to get better at that. I love overusing.
No, you can have your signature sayings. I think that's okay. If that's the signature that you want.
Sharu and Greg, we appreciate you guys for all the support that you give us through Patreon. Thank you for being a part of the Vault Patreon community. Sharu Hashmi, Greg McCarthy, monthly shout outs. Thank you guys. If you guys are interested in doing the same, visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. Had a couple new patrons sign up this week. We really appreciate it. You can do so for as little as $1.99, and that investment goes directly towards our daily year-round efforts to bring you Ravens coverage here inside the channel. So thanks, guys.
Second day in a row. We did it in an hour.
Yeah.
All it took was it for it to be February.
Right. Things slow down a little bit for sure. But looking forward to what I'm sure is going to be a really busy week. And just like we always say, when I'm on the road for Radio Row or when we're there together, just be flexible with us next week. We're definitely going to be mixing and matching. I'm going to be running around Indy. Looking forward to catching a Pacers game. Got invited to, very excited to be going to the Pacers Nuggets game on Monday night, right after I land, seeing the Joker for the first time live. So can't wait. And okay, how about this? I'll pose this to you.
Okay.
On the way out today.
Okay.
No dating stuff. Oh,
I got that before the show.
Yeah. And you're gonna get more after. But all right, chat, you ready? A former NBC friend of mine. I got my career started in NBC. He's now working in the Indianapolis sports marketing scene. He has invited me and offered 2 courtside tickets to Monday night Pacers Nuggets. The catch and the kicker is that I need to bring a headliner guest.
Oh.
It needs to be a headliner guest in order for me to officially cross the finish line on this offer.
Wait. So where did you say the seats were? Was it in a suite, or is it right
behind the Denver bench?
Oh,
courtside. So
who's going to be down there?
I ask you, partner, and you, chat, who do I bring? I've already reached out to several people, all of whom will not be available and or won't be in Indy yet. Monday is very early. That's an early arrival time.
Right.
I'll tell you who I've invited.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
To get everybody's brainstorming going.
Okay.
And chat, the reason why I'm bringing this up is I actually legitimately need help on who I should bring. I'm going to end up there regardless. He's promised me a ticket. It's the difference between a normal seat and a courtside seat.
Sure.
Obviously. So first, I went with Kurt Warner, friend of the show.
Oh, you're talking headliner.
I'm going headliner. Kurt was so timely with his response. Got right back to me saying that he's not going to be in town yet.
Okay.
Second, I went with a name you guys might be familiar with. And I went through, should I say this? Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. I went through Lacey to ask EDC to join me.
Okay.
No, fully knowing that he's not going to be available, and he wasn't. He's got interviews every night. He's got all kinds of stuff going on.
All right. Yeah, he's not. He's there for business.
But if you're not taking shots, then
you got to take a shot, because then it would have been nice, because you would have looped him in for an interview for sure.
Yeah, it would have been fun. Yeah. It would have been fun. And shout out Mrs. EDC, by the way. She is the best. Watches us, listens to us, huge supporter of us. We love her.
Love it.
Always advocating for us, by the way. Just an incredible friend to have.
Yeah.
Next, I went with Wink Martindale.
Okay, because I know you have a connection there.
Yep.
Now,
and he's not going to be in town yet.
Okay.
After that, I went with Jordan Schultz, who's an upcoming NFL insider, who we DM about random things.
Right.
Asked him, he's not going to be in town yet. So you're starting to see the issue here. Monday is very early in the cycle of the week. So what I'm asking you guys is, other than I've seen Caitlin Clark, yeah, that's going to be a tough pull. Who do I chase after? How lofty are we going? And who am I missing? Who am I overlooking? Whether it be someone who has Indy ties. I'm not asking Pat McAfee. He'd be offended. He has like a box there, I'm sure. I'm not going to ask him. Who has Indy ties and or will be there that night that's a headliner so I can pull this off?
Or could you get somebody that is like you, has a personality that's like you, and is like, doesn't currently have plans to go, but would be like, heck yeah, I'll go. Like a Marlon Humphrey.
Join me.
Like a Marlon Humphrey. I could see you I could see Marlon be like, yeah, I'll meet you down there. I'll go to the game. You know what I mean?
Maybe I hit him up. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, who's a player that like may not be wouldn't have been going, but it's like, yeah, I'd like to go sit courtside behind the Nuggets.
Roquan.
Roquan's one.
Listen, come on. Let's patch things up here. Come on.
What do you mean patch things up?
Oh, he unfollowed me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Well, I knew that, but that doesn't mean you guys are like on bad terms, right?
I hope not.
Sometimes I just unfollow people because I'm like, you're getting into my algorithm, but I still got love for you, you know?
Maybe. Richard says KVN.
KVN. I was about to say, the only thing that might be tough about Marlo now, he said Angel Reese.
Nightmare uses a super chat to say Angel. Baltimore ties, WNBAer.
Well, Carmelo would make sense because he's a Baltimore guy and then played for the Nuggets, right? Drafted by the Nuggets. But I'm sure he could get tickets.
Melo ain't sitting courtside with me. Richard says Emmanuel. Emmanuel's in Israel right now.
Oh, is he?
Followed him on Instagram after we had him on the show.
Oh, nice. I know they have the facility off for a week or two, maybe more.
Oh yeah, that's probably there. You go.
Yeah. I was gonna say with Marlon Humphrey, he has a baby now, right?
I was gonna say he probably doesn't.
That might be tough now that he has a baby. And KVN, I also thought like he's got a family, so I don't know. But Kyle Hamilton, you got a connection through his dad, Derek.
Yep, I do. I wonder if he'd be out there. Anyway, just throwing it out there. If you guys have ideas, Sarah's doing a good job. You're doing a good job right now, actually, with ideas.
Oh.
But
everybody keeps saying me in the chat. I'm not a headliner.
Sure you are.
If they don't consider you a headliner, I'm not a headliner. We're on the same show together.
You're the best headliner Baltimore has.
But I'm also not going down there.
Maybe not to them. Yeah. Yeah, you're not going out. Yeah.
No. I got it.
Tila says Justin Pugh. He's a buddy. He's become a friend of the show. All right.
Chuck Picano.
You got some time.
I also kind of want you to get somebody who I also would like on the show.
Well, let me tell you.
You could be like a Chris Broussard. You could be like a Daniel Jeremiah, although Daniel might be on TV the entire time. But I want Daniel. I want Mel Kiper on the show. Like Mel Kiper's a headliner.
But I don't know if he travels to this. I think he does everything from.
You don't think he's going to the combine? The draft guru isn't going to the combine? That would be crazy.
I don't know. I think he's a homebody these days. I don't think he does much outside of his studio. But I could be wrong on that. This is his bread and butter. So, Justin, I'm kind of with you, Justin. I definitely think that Mike Florio is only a text away like that from
Mike.
From
They're
Richard.
Kay Adams.
Kay would be the ultimate guest. Yeah, that would be incredible. But Justin, I'm with you. Chuck's got Indy ties.
DM her with me in it. Do that.
Wonder if she'll be out there.
She just went to a game in Austin, Texas. I thought I saw her tweet yesterday.
I saw her tweet. I did see her tweet.
So she went to
the tricky part about this is it's such a niche event. Sometimes not all shows show up here the way that they do Radio Row for the Super Bowl. So I got to get a little creative in terms of
setup.
Yeah. Well, outreach. I got to be really mindful of like who's going to be there and who would potentially, in this case, fly in for it, which you never know.
Yeah.
Holly says, why not bring Jake Asman? You know, if Jake knew about this and he doesn't know,
he's going to demand.
He's not going to be happy with me that I don't view him as a headliner. Again, you and him are headliners in my eyes. It's just I don't think this agency that's invited me would agree. Broussard, yeah, Richard's with you. Broussard. George is saying go after Jimmy Smith because we're friends. Here's the problem, though. Jimmy just boarded a flight to South America. I saw on Instagram this morning, so he's on vacation. Let's get to some super chats.
Well, listen, you have some leads. Got Marlon, Kyle, maybe a Mel Kiper, something like that.
I would not rule out Marlon. You're right. I think that's a good one. I'm gonna hit him up.
Have to be like, yeah, I'll go. I'll fly in real quick.
I'm gonna hit him up.
Okay.
All right. Let's get back to super chats before we close here. Isaiah C278 says, would you rest your starters the last game or play, assuming that you're 16-0?
All I know is the Ravens haven't had great success with resting their starters. But I would probably rest them.
Go for history.
16-0.
Do it.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about history.
Go for history. You know what Nick Sirianni's choosing to do. Everybody's resting.
And it worked out for him.
Dreams.
Sorry, I'm looking at some of the newest recommendations. Ravens need to hire me on the scout team, LOL. Years ago, I was banging the table for Max Crosby and Cooper Kupp, and day 3 guys are my specialty. LOL.
Well, good. You're good. You're going to love the Emery Hunt episode. Appreciate you, Quion. Clinton says, if y'all didn't see Rich Eisen, he did an excellent interview with Trevor Sakema from PFF on a pre-combine segment. Well worth it. Some love from Tongsley, as always.
We'd go, Tongsley. Love the show. Miss you guys. Keep up the good work. Please have Femi on more often.
I tell you what, if we get to a point where we have a budget for guests, that dude's on our short list. He's incredible. He's worth a weekly segment. I'm telling you, this guy, what an amazing segment he gave us earlier this week. He came in so prepared, so polished.
Yeah.
Love it. Ripped apart Adam in the live chat. Love you, Adam. But that was awesome. I mean, that was awesome. Evan, you had to stand down, bro. I mean, that got ugly quick.
Yeah.
Evan, I keep going back to what EDC said about the state of the offensive line before last season. He said they were positioned to be very good next season. I can't see letting your all-pro left tackle walk being the plan. It's a good thought. Kobe.
Do you guys think that TJ Tampa can earn a starting job on this team? Also, is he more of a safety or an outside corner, he may be one of those guys where the measurables don't match his overall talent. I think that he's going to get plenty of opportunity to win the starting job, and I see him as an outside corner.
The recovery speed, as Mel Kiper shared earlier in the week, was the reason why he dropped to the 4th round. But clearly, if this guy stays healthy, he's going to get his shot. And that brings us to the end of Super Chats. We appreciate you guys. Over 2,100 of you. What are you laughing about in the chat?
I'm just nothing. I'm just thinking about Femi and how we wanted to have, like, Femi and I, because we only talk about once every couple months. Femi and I both have that energy and passion that if we talked enough, it would just keep going higher and higher and higher. Yeah. You won't follow me as I go up. You can kind of keep it even keel. But me and Femi, we would just keep going for sure.
A couple of alphas in the house.
But there were some other like you can. I don't know that he's available, but I know you have a connection to maybe invite Ed Reed. But I don't know that he's interested.
Yeah.
Steve
we
Smith,
do have
again.
we have a pipeline.
Yeah. We
have a pipeline to Ed. I would love to sit with Steve. Man, he seems like such a great guy to work with. I know that Palmer, James Palmer, former NFL Network guy.
Yeah.
He and Steve do a show together, and they just seems like Steve is such a good partner, like such a good teammate. So I think that would be a lot of fun. I don't have a lot of ties to him to get in touch. So anyway, with that, keep the brainstorming coming. DM me, hit us up, email us. Let me know what you think. I really want to pull. I want to pull it off badly.
You will.
I'm gonna try my best. So
you definitely will.
Appreciate you. Awesome show. Thank you guys for spending some time with us on this Friday. Be on the lookout, as always, for our brand new section, really months old now, but it is still new in the grand scheme of things, where we repurpose our hour-long live streams into shorter form, easier to consume segments, typically somewhere between 10 and 30 minutes. You can go check that out, including our recent conversation with Emmanuel Acho. It's going back a week or so, but that was a great pull from you, partner, and something that's been heavily viewed. So thanks to Manta Sleep for the opportunity to work with, and thanks to them for sponsoring this episode. We appreciate you guys. We will catch up with you on Monday, and then later that day, that'll be the last stream for me in my studio, and I'll hit the road for Indianapolis. So keep the comments coming, keep the feedback coming. Looking forward to a really awesome week. Probably a flexible week. Probably won't be live on Tuesday at noon. So we'll have to figure something out there with our timing. We'll let you guys know on Monday. We'll take Sarah and I will catch up on the off air, and we'll figure out what's coming up. So thank you. Have an awesome weekend, partner. Appreciate you. And as always, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault. We'll talk soon.